Sister is manufacturing evidence to remove our brother's power of attorney over our grandparents, and I'm caught in legal turmoil. I'm getting my name the hell off this thing. My sister is unbelievably smooth talking, so damned convincing that when I spoke to her, I almost started doubting everything swirling in my head just because the words coming out of her mouth sounded so right. I didn't mention any suspicions, none of the swirling speculation. Yet, she refused to give me any concrete details, no specifics about the proof she could get, nothing solid about what exactly our brother was supposedly doing to our grandparents' finances. Just this slippery persuasion that almost had me doubting reality. I asked her how she envisioned caring for our grandparents after she managed to get our brother removed, and her solution? Moving them right back into their old house and hiring a cleaning lady off Craigslist to come once a week so Grammy wouldn't have to clean. That was her idea of a plan. That's when I swallowed my nerves and called my brother. The call was tense, he was about to put his kids to bed, and, honestly, he wasn't exactly friendly to me. I deserved that. I admitted to him that I thought I was being lied to, and confessed that our sister's behavior was shady as hell. He agreed to answer my questions. When I asked why he'd moved our grandparents into such an expensive assisted living facility, I finally got an answer. That made my stomach turn. Some months ago, Grammy left a pot on the stove and just went out shopping. My brother happened to stop by while she was gone. He found the pot sitting on the lit burner, smoldering, ruined, with smoke billowing everywhere. Grandpa was just in front of the TV, oblivious to the smoke. And, to top it off, Gramps had removed the batteries from the smoke detector after Grammy burned something the last time. The damn house could have gone up in flames. My brother moved them out immediately after that. Oh, and whoever thought my sister owed the grandparents a lot of money, well, according to my brother, they were right. Just over $500,000. I feel absolutely sick. But it gets worse. Grandpa was meticulous about keeping financial records, signed loan agreements, paperwork, everything filed away. Now, yes, I owe them some money for a car, down to $4,000, and I've never missed a monthly payment. After the move, my brother went to organize all the financial documents, trying to get everything in order. That's when he discovered all the loan agreements my sister had signed were gone from her file. He suspects she took them to eliminate any record of the debt. Thankfully, Grandpa kept photocopies of all the critical documents, including loan agreements and a payment ledger, in a fire safe as a backup. My brother has proof of everything. Proof of what every one of us owes. I feel sick and completely at a loss. This is a nightmare. I'm calling the lawyer tomorrow to find out how I can be freed from this mess. Here's how all this began. After my parents died in a tragic accident several years ago, my mom's parents became our only living grandparents, just my sister, brother, and me as their grandkids. My brother had been helping my grandparents for years, especially after the accident. My grandparents were always these vibrant, independent people, so I used to think my brother bringing them meals, cleaning the walkway, mowing the lawn, and chauffeuring them to doctor's appointments was way overboard. They could take care of themselves, or so I thought. Earlier this year, both my grandparents were officially diagnosed with Alzheimer's. My brother was given medical and durable power of attorney, as my grandparents had set up their living trust that way. A few months after the diagnosis, he moved them into an assisted living home. That's when my sister started getting truly worried. She did her research and ran scenarios by me, that now, our brother controlled all our grandparents' assets, their real estate, their bank accounts, their stocks, everything, and that our grandparents had become powerless. My brother, in her eyes, held the keys to everything. When he started renting out one of their properties, my sister and I began fighting him. She found a lawyer, we met with him at the assisted living place, and told him our brother was exploiting our grandparents, getting them to sign everything over to him. But that lawyer called my sister back after a few days and said there simply was no case. She wasn't satisfied. So she found another lawyer, and suddenly we were in probate court. My sister truly knew the system, so she took charge. The new lawyer filed complaints that my brother manipulated our grandparents by fostering dependence, deliberately making himself essential by helping them with errands and appointments so he could be put in charge. That their assets were being misused or outright stolen. That he was renting a property at below market rates. That he was isolating our grandparents by seizing control and moving them into assisted living. We were asking the court to remove my brother as power of attorney and trustee of the living trust. But when the probate court ordered my brother to present a financial accounting, he submitted it promptly. Our lawyer reviewed it and said everything was not only in order but that my brother had actually improved some investments, earning even more money for the trust. He also shared portions of the trust itself. After my parents died, my grandparents amended it, making my brother first in line to control their affairs if they became incapacitated or after their deaths. Once they pass, all assets are to be divided equally among the three of us, except for any outstanding loans, which would be deducted from the person's share. There's also a no contest clause in the trust, meaning if anyone challenges it, there could be consequences, but our lawyer wanted to double-check its implications. He said the accounting was, in his words, immaculate, that the court wouldn't make changes based on it. But if there's credible proof of mistreatment or isolation, then that's a fight. Now my sister is claiming my brother falsified the financial reporting. She told me she'd soon have proof and would get him removed. She's even planning to strike out the clause about loans and secure legal guardianship herself, but I have this gut-deep suspicion she's ready to invent whatever proof she needs. What if my brother really did falsify the accounting? But what if my sister manufactures something to give to the court? Where does that leave me? Could I be in legal trouble just for siding with her? I don't know what to do anymore. All I want is to get out of this nightmare before it drags me under. Update 1. My brother and sister are much older than I am. My parents had me later in life. My mom always used to call me her favorite surprise, which made me feel special. To be honest, I'm just starting out in college, still green with barely any real-world experience. That's not an excuse for all the mistakes I made, but it gives a little context. I realize now how much I've had to learn, and I'm honestly trying to be better. This whole situation with my grandparents drove me to sign up for a humanities class about aging this semester. That class opened my eyes. I learned so much, found the material fascinating, and it's even got me thinking about switching my major so I can work in a field that helps protect elderly people. Social work might be my new path. Back in November, I had enough. I told our family lawyer that I wanted out of the court case and gave him a general rundown of why I'd come to the conclusion that my sister hadn't been totally truthful about what was going on. He filed the paperwork to officially withdraw my name, and then he went ahead and fired my sister as his client, too. Without a lawyer, my sister dismissed her case, at least, that's the term the lawyer used. I spent some time with a counselor at school, did some deep soul searching, and made the tough decision to tell my sister not to contact me again. I blocked her after that. Surprisingly, my brother decided to forgive me for everything, even though I was absolutely insufferable until I talked things through about my grandparents' situation. I'm still grateful. He keeps me updated on everything, which is how I know how this whole mess has played out over the last 5 months. Late last fall, my brother's attorney for the family trust started getting emails from my sister's latest lawyer, her third one, about her complaints over our grandparents' estate. She began telling this new lawyer that my brother was hiding money, letting real estate in the trust go to junk, not carrying insurance, letting people live rent-free, basically accusing him of every possible thing, and not a word of it was true. To make matters worse, she started sowing these same lies with my grandparents, who ended up believing her for a while and treated my brother and me terribly. It was rough. The third lawyer started flooding my brother's lawyer with demanding emails. Prove the properties are in good shape. Prove they're insured. Prove the renters are paying. On and on and on. After a couple months of this, my brother's lawyer got a direct email from my sister herself. She spelled out a list of demands, that my brother let her take inventory of everything and claim family keepsakes, that any renters be evicted immediately, that he sell off all the real estate in 30 days, and more. The lawyer explained he did not have to comply with any of that. As the trustee, he was following everything he legally had to do. If he didn't comply in those 30 days, she threatened to pursue further action. Hilariously, she CC'd her lawyer on this email. That same day, my brother's lawyer got a call from lawyer number 3, who insisted he hadn't been consulted about that email and wanted nothing to do with it. That was the last anyone heard from the third lawyer, and things went quiet for a few months. So here's where it gets wild again. My brother's lawyer just forwarded him messages from, drumroll, my sister's fourth new lawyer. This one is from a firm whose ads scream, got a DUI? Charged with a crime? We can help. Which, honestly, raises my eyebrows about why they're even taking on a probate case for her. Yet here we are, getting the same recycled, ridiculous accusations she claimed through the last lawyer. My brother's lawyer has already assured him he's doing everything right as trustee, that none of the demands are legitimate and probate court would never remove him or make my sister trustee. It makes no sense why she keeps throwing herself at this brick wall. It's wearing down my brother, just grinding him down from the stress and constant attacks. He's exhausted in a way I can see in his face, in his voice. These aren't legal questions anymore, his lawyer's got that covered. It's just, emotionally, why does she keep doing this? What does she really hope to get out of it all? The lawyer says he's seen people act like this for years, but he didn't have any advice on how to get her to back off since, technically, she isn't breaking any laws. I'm left wondering, how do you get someone to let go and move on, when all you want is a little peace for your family? Update 2. Here's what happened. Gramps suffered a stroke several months after my last update. Because it happened at his assisted living facility, which was just down the street from a major hospital, he was able to initially survive. My brother felt that we should inform our sister, even though I didn't agree. He called her, and she simply thanked him for calling, but she never came to the hospital. My brother and I rotated sitting in the ICU with Gramps for days. Miraculously, Gramps held on for a few more months. He even returned to live with his wife, but he was never the same, and in the end, pneumonia took him. His death shattered Grammy. Losing Gramps sent her over the edge, her Alzheimer's progressed rapidly, and we had no choice but to move her to the memory unit. She lingered for years, but eventually, pneumonia claimed her the summer before the pandemic. Not once during those years did my sister visit our grandparents after that initial call. She just distanced herself further, but she found a new pursuit in causing turmoil. Lawyer number 4 stuck around for over 3 years. Together, my sister and her lawyer developed a routine. Endless demand emails to the trust lawyer for copies of checks, proof that estate properties were insured, trust bank records, anything she technically had the right to review as a beneficiary, she requested. Every time a property needed urgent repairs, like when a plumbing issue caused sewage to leak in a house, she would insist on multiple quotes, copies of every invoice, and anything else to drag the process out. When my brother submitted the yearly trust accounting, she'd pick apart every line. Weeks of work would be spent explaining medical bills or why Grammy needed $100 in new clothing from Target. She'd latch onto any detail, demanding explanations one at a time, just to slow things down. Then she discovered she could file complaints in probate court. Each time, the judge sent the complaints to mediation. My brother never agreed to anything in mediation, so her lawyer would just withdraw the filing. This happened several times, and the trust's legal costs skyrocketed as a result. When Grammy finally passed, the trust law firm submitted an equitable distribution proposal to my sister's lawyer. This included her outstanding debts, which she never tried to repay to the trust and continued to deny, despite all the documentation my brother had. My brother even offered to reduce the amount she owed if she wanted to take one of the real estate properties she used to want, just so he wouldn't have to deal with selling it. She refused, as long as her debts were part of the deal. There was some back and forth for a couple months, then total silence. Then came lawyer number 5. The trust lawyer speculated that lawyer number 4 realized his easy payday of sending nasty emails and filing dead-end motions was over and stopped representing her, so she hired a new guy and the whole mess started over. This new lawyer approached the situation only with my sister's version of events, which now included wild new accusations. My brother was hiding our grandparents from her, she never knew where they were, what their health status was, or even if they were alive. That became his main talking point. The trust lawyer, who had told my brother from day one to email any updates on our grandparents' status, including hospitalizations, moves between facilities, and so on, was able to systematically supply documentation, my brother's emails following every update, and her replies to whichever lawyer my sister was employing at the time. When these were presented to lawyer number 5, he suddenly became much more pleasant. Late 2019 through early 2020, things escalated quickly. My sister initially refused the new distribution proposal. The trust lawyer simply submitted it to probate court for approval. Suddenly, my sister had no issue with accepting the proposal. She wanted a cash distribution, subtracting her debts, no properties. My brother took the rental property in kind and asked if I was interested in the vacation home our sister used to claim she wanted. I had great memories tied to that place, so I accepted the offer, a win for me and my brother, since we both can use it. We all signed the distribution agreements, filed the necessary paperwork, and it was over. My brother went on to sell the last remaining property, the townhome my grandparents lived in before assisted living, and distributed the cash. And that was the last we heard from our sister. She deposited her check immediately. After years of venom and legal battles, it all ended in silence. The whole saga felt shockingly anticlimactic. Her unrelenting greed achieved nothing except draining the trust of some $600,000 in legal and related fees, money meant to be split among the three of us. She cost herself over $200,000, for nothing. She never even took the vacation property she insisted was special to her. When she saw the 2019 appraisal, $90,000, its sentimental value evaporated. It was never some fancy resort house, just a small vacation spot in a pretty area. Considering everything, I think it's a happy enough resolution. I paid off my student loans and now have a nest egg to help pay for grad school. I also inherited a cute little vacation house, which, apparently, is now worth much more, but I don't expect the value to last and I use it for what it's meant for, enjoying with my family. My brother kept the rental property and after all the headaches, he's more than earned the rental income it generates. I helped where I could, joining him in mediation and sometimes representing the trust, but he did the truly hard work. Now, we finally have peace after years of chaos. Update 3. I thought this saga was finally over. I was wrong. About 6 months after we received our final distributions, I got a call that made my blood run cold. It was my brother, and his voice had that same exhausted quality I remembered from the worst days of our legal battle. "She's back," he said simply. "And this time, she's not alone." Apparently, my sister had been busy during those months of silence. She'd gotten married, to someone none of us had ever heard of, and her new husband turned out to be some kind of financial consultant who specialized in estate recovery services. The kind of guy who helps people find hidden assets in family trusts. I felt sick just thinking about it. The newlyweds had filed a motion in probate court claiming that my brother had concealed assets during the distribution process. Their evidence? A single photograph my sister had taken years ago of Grammy wearing what looked like an expensive necklace that supposedly wasn't included in any of the trust inventories. They were demanding the court reopen the entire estate and conduct a full forensic audit. But here's where it gets truly twisted. When my brother's lawyer dug into this new husband's background, we discovered he'd been married twice before, both times to women who were beneficiaries of family trusts or estates. Both previous marriages had ended in messy divorces after successful asset recovery cases that netted him substantial settlements. He was essentially a professional husband who targeted women with inheritance disputes. My brother was devastated. Not just about the legal implications, but about what this meant for our sister. "I think she's being used," he told me during one of our late-night phone calls. This guy saw her as a mark the moment he found out about our family situation. The worst part? My sister seemed completely smitten. She'd been posting photos on social media of their whirlwind courtship, expensive dinners, weekend getaways, a rushed courthouse wedding. All funded, we suspected, by what remained of her inheritance money. As I watched this unfold, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were watching my sister destroy herself. The woman who had once been my big sister, flawed and manipulative, yes, but still family, seemed to have disappeared entirely. In her place was someone I didn't recognize, someone who'd apparently handed over control of her life to a stranger who saw dollar signs when he looked at our family's pain. The legal battle resumed with a vengeance. But this time felt different. This time, it felt personal in a way that went beyond money or property. This time, it felt like we were fighting for my sister's soul, even though she clearly didn't want us to. Update 4. The forensic audit took 8 months. 8 months of my brother having to justify every single transaction, every property maintenance expense, every medical bill for our grandparents. The court-appointed auditor went through everything with a microscope, and in the end, found exactly what we expected: nothing. My brother had managed the trust flawlessly. But that's not the part that still keeps me up at night. 3 months into the audit process, I started getting strange calls on my cell phone, always from blocked numbers, always the same gravelly voice asking questions about family assets and whether I was satisfied with the distribution. The first few times, I hung up immediately. Then the calls started coming to my apartment landline. Then my work number. When I finally told my brother about it, his face went pale. "That sounds like Marcus," he said. Marcus, my sister's new husband. He called me last week pretending to be from some investment firm, trying to get information about the rental property income. That's when things got really weird. I started noticing a dark sedan parked across from my apartment building. Same car, different times of day. When I mentioned it to my neighbor, she said she'd seen the same car parked outside the grocery store where I usually shop, and outside the coffee place where I study. I was being followed. My brother hired a private investigator to look into Marcus, and what we found was even worse than we'd imagined. The guy wasn't just a serial husband, he was running an entire operation. He had a network of people who would identify women involved in inheritance disputes, court them online, then marry them to gain access to family financial information. But here's the truly sick part: he wasn't just targeting the money, he was targeting the information these women could provide about their family's assets, which he'd then sell to debt collectors, tax agencies, and other asset recovery firms. My sister wasn't just being used for her inheritance. She was being used as bait to get information about our entire family's financial situation. The PI's report included screenshots of messages between Marcus and several unknown contacts, discussing the college kid, that would be me, and the rental property owner, my brother. They knew where we worked, where we lived, what we drove. Marcus had been systematically gathering intelligence on us for months, using my sister as his unwitting accomplice. But the most chilling discovery was a series of emails between Marcus and someone calling themselves Phoenix Recovery Solutions. They were planning something called a comprehensive asset sweep, apparently targeting not just the trust assets, but our personal finances, our credit, everything. The goal wasn't just to recover money from the estate. It was to destroy us financially and then pick up the pieces at bargain prices. That's when my sister called me directly for the first time in years. She was crying, really crying, not the manipulative tears I remembered from our court battles. "I need to see you," she said. "I think I made a terrible mistake. I think Marcus has been. I found some things. Please, I need help." Against my better judgment, and despite my brother's warnings, I agreed to meet her at a diner halfway between our cities. When I walked in, I almost didn't recognize her. She looked like she'd aged 10 years in the past few months. Her hands were shaking as she slid a manila envelope across the table. "I found these in his office," she whispered. "He doesn't know I took them." Inside were printed emails, financial documents, and what looked like surveillance photos, of me, of my brother, of our homes and workplaces. But the most disturbing thing was a detailed psychological profile that Marcus had apparently compiled about my sister, complete with notes about her emotional vulnerabilities and manipulation susceptibilities. "He never loved me," she said, staring at the photos. I was just another job to him." That's when she told me about the bank accounts. Marcus had convinced her to put all her inheritance money into a joint investment portfolio that he managed. When she tried to access the account the previous week, she discovered it was empty. All of it, over $400,000, was gone. But the worst part was yet to come. As we sat in that diner booth, my sister scrolling through her phone to show me concerning text messages from Marcus, I noticed something that made my blood freeze. The dark sedan was in the parking lot. And Marcus was sitting behind the wheel, watching us through the window. Update 5. Seeing Marcus in that parking lot was like ice water in my veins. My sister followed my gaze and went completely white. "Oh God," she whispered. "He said he was at a client meeting today. He's been tracking my phone." I grabbed her hand. "We need to leave. Now." Different exits. But as we stood up, Marcus got out of his car. He wasn't alone, there was another man with him, someone I'd never seen before. They were walking toward the diner entrance with purpose. "Back door," I said, pulling my sister toward the kitchen. The staff looked confused but didn't stop us as we rushed through. We made it to my car just as I heard shouting from inside the diner. My sister was hyperventilating in the passenger seat. "He took everything," she kept repeating. "All the money, all the documents from the house. I can't even access my own email anymore. He changed all my passwords." That's when she dropped the real bombshell. "There's something else," she said, her voice barely audible. "I'm pregnant." I nearly rear-ended the car in front of me. "What? 6 weeks? I just found out yesterday." That's when I started going through his office. I was looking for insurance information. Her hands were shaking again. "When I saw all those files about you and our brother, I realized what kind of monster I married." We drove to my brother's house, checking constantly to make sure we weren't being followed. When I told him everything, he just sat there for a long moment, processing it all. "She can't go back there," he finally said. "If this Marcus guy is as dangerous as the pie thinks, and if she's pregnant." He didn't finish the sentence, but we all knew what he meant. That night, my sister stayed in my brother's guest room while we tried to figure out what to do next. But around 2 a.m., I woke up to my brother shaking me awake. "She's gone," he said. "Left a note." The note was short: "I have to face this. If I don't go back, he'll come after both of you. This is my mess to clean up. Take care of yourselves." My brother called the police, but they said since she'd left voluntarily and there was no evidence of immediate danger, they couldn't do much. The pie we'd hired said he'd try to locate her, but Marcus wasn't stupid. He'd probably moved her somewhere off-grid. 3 days later, I got a text from an unknown number: "Coffee shop on 5th Street. 1 hour, come alone, or your sister pays the price." It was obviously from Marcus. Every rational part of my brain said not to go, to call the police, to let the professionals handle it. But the message came with a photo, my sister tied to a chair, looking terrified. I went. Marcus was already there when I arrived, sitting in a corner booth like he owned the place. Up close, he was smaller than I'd expected, but there was something predatory in his eyes that made my skin crawl. "Your sister is quite the actress," he said as I sat down. Had me convinced for months that she was just another grieving granddaughter fighting over an inheritance. Turns out she's much more useful than I originally thought. "What do you want?" He slid a piece of paper across the table. "Your brother's rental property. I want him to sign it over to a company I represent. In exchange, your sister goes free, and we all pretend this never happened." I looked at the document. It wasn't just a property transfer, it was some kind of complex financial arrangement that would give Marcus's people access to the rental income in perpetuity, plus rights to refinance the property and pocket the proceeds. "This is worth way more than what you stole from her," I said. Marcus smiled. It was not a pleasant expression. "Consider the extra amount payment for the inconvenience your family has caused me. Your sister was supposed to be a simple mark, but you people have been remarkably stubborn. And if my brother refuses? Then your sister and her unborn child disappear permanently. These things happen. Pregnant women have emotional breakdowns, run away, sometimes hurt themselves. Very tragic." That's when I noticed something. Marcus kept checking his phone, and each time he did, his confident demeanor slipped just a little. He was nervous about something. "You know what I think?" I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I think you're in over your head. I think whatever operation you're running has bigger players involved, and you promise them something you can't deliver." His face darkened. "You don't know what you're talking about." "Don't I? You've been working this con for what, 6 months? And all you have to show for it is my sister's inheritance money and a bunch of useless surveillance photos. Your bosses aren't happy, are they?" That's when his phone buzzed with a call. He glanced at it, and I saw something like panic flash across his face before he declined the call. "We're done here," he said, standing up abruptly. "You have 24 hours to get me that property transfer, or what?" The voice came from behind him. My brother was standing there, and he wasn't alone. The pie was with him, along with 2 people I didn't recognize but who had the unmistakable look of law enforcement. Marcus went very still. "This isn't what it looks like." "Really?" said one of the law enforcement types. "Because what it looks like is extortion, kidnapping, and fraud. Marcus Webb, you're under arrest." As they cuffed him, Marcus looked back at me with pure hatred. "You have no idea what you've just done," he said. "This isn't over." But as it turned out, he was wrong about that. And right about it too, in ways none of us could have imagined.